No, Kathy, I already told you. Today isn't a good day for swimming. Tiffany's voice came through the phone sounding fake and overly sweet. Alberto and Virginia need their private swim time.
You understand, right?
Maybe you could try the public pool. I gripped my phone tightly as I looked at my kids. Their smiles quickly disappeared when they heard their aunt say no again. It was the hottest day of the summer, and my twins, Judy and Bruce, who are both 8 years old, had been asking all week to go swimming in Tiffany's pool. Tiffany, it's 90 degrees today, I said, trying not to lose my temper. The public pool is full of people. The kids haven't gotten to swim at your house even once this summer. They're your niece and nephew. Well, she replied, maybe if you taught them to be quieter, they could come over more often. Alberto and Virginia need peace and quiet. They're training for the junior swim team, you know. Of course, I knew. Tiffany talked about it all the time. Her 13-year-old twins were her pride and joy. She believed they were future Olympic swimmers who needed complete silence and space. No room for younger cousins splashing and having fun. I hung up the phone and turned toward Judy and Bruce. Judy's bottom lip started to tremble, and Bruce looked down, kicking the ground with his foot. They were both still in the swimsuits they had excitedly put on that morning, hoping today would be the day. I'm sorry, sweethearts, I said, pulling them into a hug. How about we go get some ice cream instead? It's not fair, Mom, Bruce said softly into my shirt. Why doesn't Aunt Tiffany like us? My heart ached. Tiffany had left my kids out many times before, but it never got easier. Every time they hoped for a fun day with family, they were let down again. Ever since Tiffany moved into her new house with a huge swimming pool, things had changed. What could have been a great place for family gatherings turned into something else. Tiffany's private world where only her rules mattered. That night, after the kids were in bed, I sat alone on the back porch, looking out over our big yard. It was quiet, and the air was warm. My husband, Logan, came out and sat next to me. He brought 2 glasses of wine and handed one to me. Rough day? He asked gently. I nodded. Tiffany rejected us again. He didn't say anything at first. He just put his arm around me, and we sat there together in silence. Maybe we didn't have a pool, but we had each other, and maybe that was the most important thing. I let out a long sigh and took the glass of wine from Logan. I just don't get it, I said. When did Tiffany become so selfish? We all used to swim in that pool when it was Mom and Dad's house. Now she acts like it's some fancy country club. Logan took a slow sip of his wine, thinking. You know, he said, I've been thinking about something. This yard of ours is actually really big. I turned to look at him, raising my eyebrow. What are you getting at? He smiled. Well, I've been doing some research lately. Above-ground pools are a lot better now than they used to be. And with my background in construction, I think we could build something really nice. Not just for us, but maybe, he trailed off. Maybe what? I asked. Maybe for other families too, Logan said. I've noticed we're not the only ones Tiffany has shut out. Remember Janice from down the street? Her kids aren't allowed at Tiffany's pool either. The Thompson twins were turned away last month, too. I sat up straighter. Ideas began to fill my head. Wait, are you saying we should build a community pool? One for all the neighborhood kids. Exactly, Logan said. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Just a safe, fun place where everyone is welcome. We could keep it supervised and make sure it's open to all. I looked around our backyard. Before, it had felt too big, like something hard to take care of. But now it looked different. It looked full of potential. It would be a lot of work, I said. And probably expensive, Logan added. But I've got some savings set aside. And I bet if we talk to other families, they'd want to help out too. We sat quietly for a moment, then I smiled. We could really make something special here. Something that brings people together instead of keeping them apart. The next morning, I started calling neighbors. Janice was excited right away. Since she worked at City Hall, she offered to help with permits and paperwork. The Bradley, who were both teachers, volunteered to create a schedule and come up with safety rules. Other neighbors said they could donate supplies, money, or their time to help build. Soon, our yard turned into a busy worksite. Logan led the construction, teaching others how to help. People stopped by every day, some with tools, others just to see how things were going. The sound of laughter and teamwork filled the air. In just a few weeks, our backyard started to change. What had once been an empty space became a place full of life, hope, and connection. We weren't just building a pool, we were building a stronger, kinder neighborhood. And for the first time in a long time, I felt proud. The kids were amazed by everything happening around them. Judy and Bruce, my 8-year-old twins, quickly made themselves the official helpers for the pool project. Logan had even bought them small hard hats, and they wore them proudly every day. They loved being part of the team. Each day, they spent hours in the yard, watching the pool take shape and cheering on the neighbors who were working hard to build it. Their sadness over Aunt Tiffany saying no again was slowly fading. In its place, a new feeling was growing, excitement. They no longer cared about being left out of Tiffany's pool. They were part of something better now. They were helping build a place where they and other kids would always be welcome. One Tuesday morning, while some volunteers were working on the wooden deck around the pool, I was staining boards when I heard a voice behind me. It was familiar, but unexpected. "Kathy, what's going on here?" I turned around and saw my mother standing there. She looked confused and surprised. Clearly, she hadn't heard about our project yet. "Hi, Mom," I said, wiping my hands and standing up straight. "We're building a pool." She looked around, taking in the busy scene. People from the neighborhood were working together, chatting, laughing, and building. Kids were playing in the grass nearby. Everyone looked happy. "A pool?" she asked. "But why? Tiffany already has a perfectly good one." I looked at her and replied quietly, "Does she? Because from what I see, a pool that doesn't welcome family doesn't seem so perfect." My mom didn't respond right away. She stood silently, watching Judy and Bruce run by with a pitcher of lemonade. They were bringing drinks to the workers, their faces glowing with joy. They were proud to be helping, proud to belong. "They look happy," she finally said. "They are," I said. "Mom, this isn't just about swimming. It's about building something for everyone. A place where no child feels left out. A place where people feel like they belong." I watched as understanding slowly spread across her face. She was starting to see what this was really about. This wasn't just about a pool, it was about kindness, inclusion, and true family values. It was about showing our children that everyone matters. And this was only the beginning. The community pool project kept growing. What started because of Tiffany's coldness had turned into something beautiful. More neighbors came each weekend. They brought tools, supplies, and most importantly, their time and energy. They wanted to be part of something good. One morning, as I was going over some safety equipment orders, Janice came running up to me. She was nearly bouncing with excitement. "Kathy," she said, catching her breath, "you won't believe what just happened." I was at City Hall one morning, finishing the paperwork for our pool permits, when something surprising happened. While I was talking about the project, the director of Parks and Recreation overheard me. He came over, smiling, and said he loved the idea of our community pool. He told me they wanted to feature our story in the town's newsletter as a great example of neighborhood teamwork and unity. I couldn't help but smile. This was the complete opposite of Tiffany's pool, where only her kids were allowed to swim. Our pool wasn't even finished yet, but it was already bringing people together. That alone made it feel like a success. The backyard looked amazing. Logan had designed a big L-shaped pool, with a shallow and just right for younger kids. Around it, we built a wide wooden deck where families could sit, relax, and set up chairs or umbrellas. We even added small cubbies for storing pool toys and safety gear. The Bradley, our neighbors who were teachers, helped organize a volunteer schedule so parents could take turns watching the pool. Judy and Bruce were proud of their new roles. They had become the welcome team for the whole project. Every afternoon, they set up a little lemonade stand and offered drinks to the workers. They also kept a journal, writing notes and adding pictures of the progress each day. One afternoon, Judy came running up to me, holding the journal.
"Mom,
"Look," she said, grinning. "We got 10 more signatures today. That's 30 families who want to join our pool club." Pool club was what Judy and Bruce called the group we formed to help manage the pool. Unlike Tiffany's strict and private rules, our only expectations were that families followed safety guidelines and helped out when they could. Everyone was welcome, but not everyone liked what we were doing. One evening, as Logan and I were talking in the backyard about the final touches before filling the pool with water, we heard the sound of a car pulling into our driveway. I didn't have to look to know who it was.
Tiffany.
She stormed into the yard without saying hello. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" she snapped. I stayed calm. "We're building a pool for the neighborhood," I said simply. "A public swimming hole, you mean?" she scoffed. "Mom told me about it. Do you know how this makes me look?" I raised my eyebrows. "How it makes you look?" "I'm not sure what you mean." "Don't pretend you don't know," she said angrily. "You're doing this just to get back at me because I wouldn't let your kids interrupt Alberto and Catherine's training." I took a deep breath. I knew this conversation was coming, but I also knew something else. This pool wasn't about revenge. It was about kindness, sharing, and bringing people together. And no matter what Tiffany thought, I wasn't going to let her take that away. I was about to say something when a small voice spoke up behind me. "That's not true, Aunt Tiffany." We all turned to see Bruce standing there, holding his progress journal tightly against his chest. His voice was calm but strong. "We're building this pool so everyone can swim together. Nobody gets left out here." Tiffany's face turned red. "Left out? My children aren't left out. They're elite athletes. They need peace and quiet. They're focused. You wouldn't understand." Logan stepped forward and joined us.
His voice was steady.
"Actually," he said, "I think Bruce understands better than anyone. This pool isn't meant to keep anyone out. Even Alberto and Catherine are welcome to come swim here. The only difference is they'll have to share the space and be respectful, just like everyone else." Tiffany opened her mouth to say something, but no words came out. She looked like she had a lot to say, but couldn't find the right words. After a few seconds, she spun around and walked quickly back to her car. The yard went quiet again. Later that night, I found Judy and Bruce sitting on the edge of the new deck. Their legs dangled off the side as they looked at the water. "Are you two okay?" I asked, sitting down between them. I know it wasn't easy hearing Aunt Tiffany talk like that. "We're okay, Mom," Judy said, resting her head on my arm. "Actually, we kind of feel bad for Alberto and Catherine." "You do?" I asked. Bruce nodded.
"Yeah.
They never get to just have fun swimming. It's always about training, being quiet, and being perfect. That doesn't sound like fun at all." I pulled them into a hug and smiled. They were so wise. They saw something that even many adults missed. Tiffany's way of doing things wasn't just hurting others, it was hurting her own kids. All that pressure, and no room for fun or joy. The next few days were busy as we got ready for the big grand opening of the pool. The Parks and Recreation Department sent a photographer to take pictures of our project. Local businesses heard about what we were doing and donated toys, pool floats, and safety gear. Even the ice cream truck driver stopped by and asked if he could include our pool on his route this summer. The night before the opening, I stood in our backyard and looked around. The pool water sparkled under the soft lights. The deck was finished, with colorful chairs and umbrellas. Signs with safety rules were posted clearly, and emergency gear was ready. Our volunteer board showed 2 months of helpers already signed up. Logan came up behind me and wrapped his arms around me. "Proud of what we've done?" he asked. "More than proud," I said. I keep thinking about what the kids said about Alberto and Catherine. Maybe this will help Tiffany see things differently. "Maybe," Logan said. "But even if it doesn't, we've created something special. Look how many families are here now because of this." He was right. This wasn't just a pool anymore. It was something bigger. We had built a real community. And that was just the beginning. That afternoon, I noticed someone standing quietly at our front gate. It was Catherine, Tiffany's daughter. She was watching the pool, her eyes full of longing. As soon as she saw me looking at her, she turned and ran away. But not before I caught the hopeful, almost sad look on her face. It made my heart ache. I had a feeling that tomorrow, opening day, was going to be interesting. The next morning was bright and warm. It was the perfect day for swimming. By 10 a.m., families had already started arriving. Kids ran ahead excitedly while their parents carried folding chairs, towels, and umbrellas. Everyone was smiling and chatting, ready to enjoy the brand new pool. Judy and Bruce were so proud. They stood near the entrance handing out pool passes, simple cards they had helped design with names, emergency contact numbers, and the basic pool rules. Their faces lit up every time they welcomed another family. Watching them made my heart feel full. "Mom," Judy called out suddenly. "Look who's here." I turned and saw my mom walking through the gate. She looked a little unsure, but she wasn't alone. Behind her were Alberto and Catherine, Tiffany's kids. They stood close together, trying not to be noticed. They wore their matching swim team suits and looked a little nervous. "The kids really wanted to come," my mom explained softly when she reached me. "Tiffany had to go to a swim coach meeting. I thought maybe just this once." I smiled and bent down to Alberto and Catherine's level. "You're always welcome here," I said gently. "The only rules are to stay safe and have fun."
Can you handle that?
Both of them nodded quickly. I noticed Catherine was holding a simple pool toy, a soft foam dolphin. Usually, I'd only seen her with training gear like goggles, flippers, or resistance paddles. Can we just play?" Alberto asked carefully, as if he wasn't used to asking that question or getting a yes. "That's exactly what this pool is for," I said with a smile. Moments later, they were in the water, splashing and laughing with Judy, Bruce, and the other neighborhood kids. For the first time, I saw Alberto and Catherine just being kids, no coaches, no strict drills, no pressure. Just joy. The morning passed quickly in a happy blur of fun and laughter. Parents took turns watching the pool while others helped run games or hand out snacks. The ice cream truck showed up just before noon, playing its familiar jingle. It turned into a surprise party, with everyone enjoying a treat by the pool. Then, everything went quiet. Tiffany had arrived. She stood at the gate, her face hard to read. Her eyes searched the crowd and landed on her kids, playing Marco Polo with their cousins, laughing loudly, soaked in sunshine and happiness. I stepped forward, ready to talk to her. But before I could, Catherine's voice rang out clearly.
"Mom,
"Come watch." I learned how to do a handstand underwater. Tiffany's eyes locked on her daughter. Catherine pushed off the pool floor and flipped her legs up in a wobbly handstand. Not perfect, not polished, but full of joy. Something softened in Tiffany's face as she watched. Something had changed. "I haven't seen her smile like that in months," Tiffany said softly, almost like she was talking to herself. "They're still amazing swimmers," I said gently. "But they're also just kids. They need to have fun too." Tiffany didn't say anything for a while. She stood quietly, watching Alberto play volleyball with some of the neighborhood kids while Catherine showed Judy how to do a handstand in the water. Her eyes softened. "I thought," she began, then paused. "I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought pushing them hard would help them succeed. But now, watching them laugh like that." She looked at me, her eyes shiny with emotion. "I've been awful, haven't I?"
to them."
"To you, to everyone." "You haven't been awful," I said kindly. "Maybe just a little too focused on being perfect. But it's never too late to change." Just then, Alberto and Catherine shouted from the pool, "Mom, come swim with us." Tiffany hesitated. She looked down at her fancy clothes and heels, clearly unsure. I smiled and held up one of the extra swimsuits we kept for guests. "What do you say, sis? Ready to remember how fun swimming can be?" To my surprise and to everyone else's, she took the swimsuit and headed into the changing room. When she came back out, she looked different. Lighter, happier, younger. She stepped into the pool, and when Alberto and Catherine splashed her with laughter, she splashed them right back. The sound of their giggles and shouts filled the air. It was like years of stress and pressure had been washed away in that moment. By the end of the day, as families packed up their things and started heading home, Tiffany pulled me aside. "I don't suppose," she began, then stood up straighter and said clearly, "I don't suppose you could use another parent volunteer on the schedule? Maybe I could help with some beginner swim lessons for the younger kids." I smiled and handed her a volunteer sign-up sheet. "Welcome to the community, Tiffany." That evening, Logan and I sat on the deck as the sun set, its golden light bouncing off the calm pool water. I thought about how sometimes the best way to respond to being left out isn't to argue or get angry. Sometimes the best thing to do is to build something better, something that brings people together instead of pushing them apart. Mom, Judy and Bruce came out in their pajamas. Can we have our bedtime story out here tonight? Of course, I said, patting the space beside me. They cuddled up next to me and Bruce asked, "Do you think Aunt Tiffany will really help with swim lessons?" "I think," I said, looking out at the pool, "when you build bridges instead of walls, amazing things can happen." In the soft evening air, with my family close and the memory of laughter still fresh, I knew we had built something special. Not just a pool, but a place where everyone belonged. A place where joy, kindness, and community truly lived.